a little bit of time at the bench tonight testing the new insert that I made for the powder through expanding die. It's 45 auto, and it is a stepped powder through expander that I turned. See the previous video and you'll see it. I wanted to make sure that it worked correctly when I was throwing powder. There's a little bit more resistance in the expansion part of the stroke than what it takes to throw the powder measure. So the powder measure throws its charge before the expander is fully down to its extent. I wanted to make sure that that didn't interfere with my powder charges. So I've done 4 so far, so good. What we have here is some 45 auto brass that I bought from a friend at a gun show. This stuff was pre-primed, ready to go. A lot of it was over-expanded, so I've full-length sized it, put a quick trim on it in order to make sure everything was consistent. But using this stuff up, I got it at a very affordable price, so it's real good for testing. This particular batch is WCC. That's appropriate. WCC 74. Well, that's younger than me. WCC 66. That's older than me. WCC 74. That's younger than me. 74. 74. Ooh, what's this one? WCC 66. That's older than me. 74. WCC 41. That's way older than me. 74s. A lot of 74s here. Yep. Well, anyway, there we go. So anyway, we're set up with the auto disc powder measure, deluxe auto disc powder measure. We're set for 6 grains of bullseye, 200 grain bullet. These bullets are some secondhand bullets. Once again, kind of gun show. Actually, this was a local reloading shop that sells some things from estates and whatnot. These are some kind of a 200 grain round nose flat point. I measured them. They're 452. Some of them look better than others. This one here is looking a little sad, a little slumpy, wrinkly. It may end up going back in the melting pot, or maybe I'll just shoot it. Probably doesn't matter, but I figure these budget components are good for my testing. Budget brass, unknown primers, whatever this bullet is, 200 grain round nose flat point, some kind of lube. We'll just shoot them up and that'll work fine, but can't hardly beat it for 217 of them for 15 bucks. That's pretty cheap. So good test rounds, but we'll run some through here. Like I said, I've run 4 so far. So far so good. Go ahead and you can see as I go up in there, the powder measure goes up first, hits the stop, then it finishes the expansion, throws the powder charge. But looking in the brass, the powder's not compressed down or anything. Everything's nice and loose. Everything's fine in there. So I think we have success. That one there's a little bit light on the lube. We'll throw that to the side. This one here looks like it'll be fine. There we go. See, good expansion. Sets right down in there against the step. And we'll seat it. Back around the powder throw station. Oh, that's kind of a crappy little rag, but it'll work. Yeah, other than the wrinkly bullet and the crusty pre-primed brass, it's a pretty good looking round. I did plunk test them in my one of my 45s. Let me grab it real quick. I did plunk test and feed test them in the RIA. This is a 1911 A1FS, the full-sized. Plunk tested just fine, fed out of the magazine just fine. We can probably even drop one in there like that, so you can hear it's plunking in there fine. So that's going to run A-OK. So I think our insert is probably a success. Let's run a couple more here. That has enough lube. A little bit of a void on the one side, but nope, I'm seating that one a little crooked there. There we go, pressed right in there nicely. So, I think the expander is a success. It seems to be throwing the powder fine. Seems to be expanding fine. So we'll load up a batch of these, get them out to the range, and have some fun shooting. I guess it's kind of budget blaster ammo, being that it's a budget bullet and budget brass. So we've got a literism going with a lot of B's. Budget blaster, budget bullet, budget brass. So, yep, I think that's going to work good. I think I've got a pretty good feeling about this expander. I think I could probably turn a couple more of them. Probably the next thing to do is to test the insert in a different powder through expanding die. I've found that these powder through expanding dies vary just a little bit in some of the internal machining, so that inserts interact differently with different dies. It'd be interesting to see how tolerant it is. My expander, the one that I turned, is a little bit different than a Lee expander, because if you look on the Lee expander, because they use it to bell, this shelf right here is at a little bit of an angle, where that on the one that I turned, I made that 90 degrees. I could put the angle in it, but the inside of the die varies. Sometimes the die's internally where this stops inside the machining in the die. Sometimes that's relatively straight. Sometimes it's got an angle on it. So, you know, the at-rest position of the insert in the die varies from die to die. It makes it a little bit challenging to have one insert that works in any die you could pick up. So I've found that I have the best results when I tailor the insert to the individual die. Now, it certainly isn't much of an option if you were supplying them to others, but I mean, I don't know how many 45 powder through expanding dies I have. I have several. I probably have 4 or 5 of them anyway, so I can test it in a few and see how it works. But I do think that the geometry of my die is fine. It seems to be dispensing the powder okay. It's getting it in there real nicely. I'm not getting a bunch of stuff stuck in the die or whatever, and the dimensions of the expansion seem to be just about right on the money for a 452 bullet. Like I said in the previous video, I made the major diameter step on this one 450. It's 452, 453, somewhere in that range, which matches the Lyman M die. And with these 452 bullets, it seems to be just about right. Some kind of gunk on that bullet there. It's just I guess that was just how the lube looks. No, there's actually a chunk of gunk in that. Got that out of there. Okay, so that's good. But about 4/1000ths of an inch difference between the major diameter and the minor diameter. And then the length of the step, as to how deep of a step I make, I went a little bit larger than the Lyman M die. I didn't really measure it or document exactly what it was. I like to have a little bit of shelf there. And then I was also thinking that if I had a problem with the travel, that having a longer step up there would be better if I didn't, if I ran out of travel on the powder measure, or wanted to adjust things a little bit. I thought having a longer step might give me a little bit more leeway. But I think this is working really well. And I might make another, I haven't shaved any lead yet, so maybe the around 452, 453 is fine. It takes a little bit of effort to get the bullet started in there. If you were trying to go super fast, that may be too tight, but for the rate that I'm going at with these, it seems to work pretty good. So I think it's a success. I think maybe I could make a couple more in 45 and see how they go. I could also probably make a couple in 40 and try that. 40 and 10 auto. See how they work out. Yep. Looks good. I shoot. Whoops. Oh no, whoops, I did that right. I was thinking I was in the wrong station, but I was in the right station. Everything's fine. But, yep, looks good. Looks real good. And I did look in the powder on that before I went. So they shoot more cast bullets in 45 than just about any of the others. So it made sense to start here first. I think that bullet's okay. Got a good powder charge in there. But yeah, that's seating in there real nice and square. And I'm not putting any taper crimp on these. I could run them back through and put a little bit on there, but I think that they probably are doing fine because I'm only expanded down to just about where the base of the bullet is. And this brass was had the cantilever there already. That's pretty much where that bullet is seating. So it's kind of stopping there. Good powder charge. Yep, it sits in there real nice. That one's, there we go. There, down against this. Yep, there it is. So used to having more than 2 stations. I need a 2-station turret press. But anyway, yeah, I think this is going to work pretty good. I just wanted to make sure that having the stem down, or excuse me, having the powder dispense before the stem was all the way down, I wanted to make sure there wasn't a problem with that. Now, obviously, with Bullseye, it's relatively fine powder. With an extruded powder, like say N320, it might be a little bit different. I should probably try some extruded and see if I get crunchiness or anything like that, because the way that this is working out, it's actuating the powder measure before the expander goes all the way down in there. But it doesn't seem to be a problem with the Bullseye anyway. It's like if I run this up in there, if you watch the powder measure, you'll see that the powder measure starts moving right away. It gets to its stop, and then the expansion is happening, and then I can feel it coming into the step, and then it finishes, and that's putting that upper larger groove in there, or larger expansion in there. So I just wanted to make sure that with the powder coming out mostly first, that it didn't have any problem. But looking down in the brass, I don't see any marks from the expander doing anything goofy to the powder. It's not packed down in there or anything like that. It's all fine. So I think that my concerns were somewhat unwarranted. Well, there's 15 of them. Of this, that bullet got a big old wrinkle in it, but we'll shoot it up anyway. I guess the choice is melt it down, but I buy stuff like this all the time when I'm at the shops and there's jars of bullets and things like this. I figure worst case scenario, it's worth the lead, but I'll shoot them. I think it'll probably one of those things where they'll probably shoot just as good as anything else that I shoot. There we go. That all looks fine in there. I started that one a little bit off. There it goes. Just got to get it lined up. That's a real square-based bullet, so you got to get it lined up for it to go in there. None of them have shaved, so it's plenty of expansion. The step is big enough. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think that that's going to be a good tool. Now, I've been loading most of my 45 auto on the Dillon Square Deal B, so I had been just using the standard Dillon powder funnel on that with some plated bullets and some cast bullets. I run, it puts a little bit of flare on the case, but I suppose I could make a powder funnel for the Square Deal B that had the stepped style expansion too. But the lead eyes are easy to work with for making custom parts. The only challenge being is that over the years, you can't expect these dies to always be the same. Powder through expanding dies, I believe, came out in the 80s. So, you know, you're dealing with darn near 50 years worth of the things, 40 years anyway almost, and there's certainly going to be some changes in how they're manufactured over that time, so I can't really expect this one insert to work in every possible die configuration. So I think that you somewhat have to tailor the insert to an individual die if you really want to get it right on the money. Yeah, it seems to be, the bullets seat in there real nicely. They're coming out good. No problems at all. Oop, get back down in the camera there. Only got 3 more. Go ahead and knock them out. I need a 2-hole turret press. I have 3-hole turret presses. I like those. But sometimes you only need 2. I guess I could set it up with 2 powder through dies and 2 seating dies and then just use them that way. That would work. Be like a double 2-hole. That looks good. Lube on that one's up out of the lube groove. I'll just use my fingernail and push that lube back into the lube groove there. Pack it in. It's a finger lube sizer. That looks good. That's kind of an ugly bullet, really. Wrinkles in it, but I think for my purposes this will work fine. And one last bullet here. WCC 76. Definitely younger than me. That looks fine. Sits right down in there. Alright, back around to the power station. So, yep, I think those are going to work good. We'll do another plunk test here. Yep, plops right in there. No problem. Another random one. Yep, works fine. Well, there you have it. I think that the expander is going to do a good job. Thanks for watching.